In this video, I'm going to go through the solution to the suspense account question Nogood Company. This is a complex suspense account question to address, so I'm going to do the solution over a number of videos. So I have recreated the question here and we'll just read through it to get a sense of what it contains. Okay, so your firm acts as accountant to Nogood Company. The bookkeeper of the business is relatively inexperienced and has sent you the following trial balance at the 31st of March 2020. So you can see there's a trial balance with a list of items contained within it. Okay, so all the items in the nominal ledger, the balances are shown in one of two columns. This is the debit column and this is the credit column. And you can see at the bottom here that we've got a suspense account with a balance of €65,100. Now remember, suspense account typically represents problems that need to be addressed, so we have to go through all the problems that arose in the course of preparation of the trial balance and essentially fix them. So then underneath the trial balance, you're told the bookkeeper was not sure how to prepare a trial balance. Okay, so quite an inexperienced individual. And he suggests that you carefully examine each of the above balances in order to check that they've been entered on the correct side. So you've got your trial balance, and when we go into the detail of this question, we'll be looking at each item and its balance value, and we need to identify, is each value in the correct column? And this gets back to the mnemonic DEAD click, so the understanding of debit for expenses, assets and drawings, and credit for liabilities, income and capital. And we'll be looking at that in the course of this particular video. Looking further at the other errors, so in the course of your examination of the nominal ledger, you discover the following additional errors. And you can see that there are 6 items listed here in bullet point format. In this video, I won't go through those 6 items. They will be the subject of a later video, but essentially they describe additional errors that may have occurred in the nominal ledger. And the requirement is prepare journal entries correcting all errors in the trial balance and the additional errors detailed above. So there's errors contained in the trial balance, and these 6 bullet points contain additional errors, and then draft the suspense account taking account of the corrections you have made. So when we do that part of the solution, if we've done everything fully and correctly, the suspense account will balance out. Now what I want to do in this video is just really focus on the trial balance and values on the wrong side. So I'm just going to highlight part of the question here that I'm focusing on. Okay, so you can see he suggests that you carefully examine each of the above balances. Okay, so I'm going to go through each one of these items listed in the trial balance in order to check that they've been entered on the correct side. So this requires that you understand whether an item should go on the debit or the credit side. So this mnemonic that I've used in class on many occasions, DEAD click, D-E-A-D-C-L-I-C. So D for debits, debit balances. So remember, this is the debit column here. That refers to items which are either expenses, assets or drawings. Okay, so everything that is shown in the debit column must refer to either an expense item, an asset item or a drawings item. And in the credit column there's liabilities, income and capital. Okay, so these items here should only be one of those 3 possible categories. Now you do need to become familiar with typical examples of expenses, assets and drawings, and liabilities, income and capital. And really the best way to do that is to become familiar with financial statements. So the things that go into a trading profit and loss account, they will only ever be either expenses or income. Okay, every single item in a trading profit and loss account will be expenses or income, and things in the balance sheet will be assets, liabilities, capital or drawings. So if you think of the examples of items contained within each of those separate financial statements, you'll become familiar with examples of assets, examples of income, examples of liabilities, and so on and so forth. So we're going to use this concept in this video to identify whether these items listed in the trial balance have had their balance correctly entered in the appropriate column. Okay, so land and buildings, you should hopefully know from your study of financial statements that those are assets of a business. they're fixed assets, they go on the balance sheet, and assets are in the debit side, so that's okay. Office equipment, the cost. Now, the word cost sometimes confuses students. They think of the word cost to refer to expenses, but it's the nature of the particular item that is important. So office equipment is an asset used by a business. Okay, it's going to be used over many years typically, and it goes in the balance sheet under fixed assets. So it's an asset that is supposed to go on the debit side, but we have put it here on the credit side. So there's a problem. I'll just highlight that, and I'll come back to the solution to it later. Office equipment aggregate depreciation. Okay, aggregate depreciation is technically known as provision for depreciation, and a provision is a special class of liability. So liabilities go on the credit side, and that is correctly dealt with. Vehicles cost, okay, another asset, and this time they've been put in the correct column. Vehicles aggregate depreciation, well, you can probably see that if this aggregate depreciation for office equipment is in the correct column, this amount for vehicles must be wrong, so that's another problem. Okay, remember, aggregate depreciation is a special category of provision or liability. Stock 1st of April 2019, that's opening stock, and it should go in the trading profit and loss account. It's essentially deemed to be an expense item this year, so it should have been on the other column there. So to again just highlight that. Trade debtors, these are current assets. They represent amounts owed to you by your customers, so they are correctly put on the debit side. Cash on hand, well, cash either is an asset or you don't have cash. You can't have a negative amount of cash. So you either have 10 euros in your wallet or your till, or you don't have any money in your till. So it can only ever be an asset, and it should have gone on the debit side. So again, we have a problem with that. The bank overdraft, okay, well, the magic word there is overdraft. That represents money that you owe to the bank. You have to pay back the loan from the bank. That's a liability, so it should go on the other side, should go on the credit side. Trade creditors, these are monies owed to suppliers, so they're liabilities, current liabilities, so they go correctly on the credit side. VAT liability, now again, the word liability is a real giveaway. It tells you it's a liability, so it should go on the credit column, so again we have a problem with that. PAYE liability is correctly placed in the credit column. Capital is its own special category in my mnemonic, and it's correctly placed in the credit column. The inheritance received is another type of capital. The accounting term would be capital introduced. So remember, money that you put into your business from outside of the business trading activities or from loans represents capital introduced. So that should go on the credit side. So again, highlight that as a problem. Drawings, again, their own special category. They're correctly on the debit side, so that's all right, that item. Sales is an example of income, so that's correctly on the credit side. Now, purchase returns, okay, you need to be a little bit careful with this one. The way I consider returns is I look at them as being the opposite of the original transaction. So if this is a purchase returns, it's the opposite of a purchase. Now, purchases are expenses. They go into cost of sales in your trading account. So if purchases are expenses, purchase returns are the opposite. So they should go on the credit side. Purchases, okay, just mentioned that they're expenses, so they are correctly placed in the debit column. Sales returns, okay, again, sales are income, so sales returns go on the opposite side. That's all right, that's been correctly dealt with. Carriage in is an expense. It's treated as cost of sales, so it's correctly placed in the debit column. The discounts, we presume that they're okay. We haven't been told that one is discount received, one is discount allowed, but we presume that they're both correctly placed. Staff salaries are expenses, rent and rates are expenses, and these are all placed in the debit columns. Telephone and fax, insurance, these are all expenses. Storm damage repairs, well, this is an expense. It should be placed in the debit columns. That's a problem item. And postage and stationery is an expense, which is correctly placed in the debit column. So we have a bunch of items highlighted, and I'm going to go through the solution to these particular errors in the remainder of this video. So to take the office equipment, first of all, okay, what we did was we put 40,000 on the credit side. Okay, that was what we did, and what we want actually is we want to have it on the debit side. So we have to put it in there and we have to cancel the mistake that we made. So there's a kind of a double requirement there. So I'm just going to highlight the two things that we have to do to this account. Okay, so that just highlight those. Okay. Now the next one is vehicles aggregate depreciation. So what we did was we put it on the debit side. Okay, 25,400, and it should have gone on the other side. So we want 25,400 here, and we have to cancel our initial error. Okay, this cancellation offsets what we did originally. Okay, so the correct entry then will be to do these things. So we're going to have to credit the aggregate depreciation account with the total of those amounts. Stock at the start of April. Okay, so what we did was we put it on the credit side, but what we want is it to go on the other side, and we'll have to cancel our mistake. Remember, this is a mistake, so again, just cancel the mistake there. So those are the things we're going to have to do there. The cash in hand. Okay, we put it on the credit side. That's what we did, and that's incorrect. So again, we'll want to put it on the debit side, and we'll have to cancel our mistake. So that will be the correction required there. Now this is all just kind of rough workings to figure out the debits and credits. In the end of the solution, I'll show the formal journal entry to make the corrections. Okay, but what's important in this demonstration is that you understand the idea of what we did and what we want and the cancellation of errors. Okay, the next one was the bank overdraft. Okay, so what we did was we put €1,000 on the debit side. Okay, and we need to put it on the credit side. So we want 1,000 on the credit side, and we have to cancel our original mistake. So again, that is going to be that item. And VAT liability. Okay, what we did was we put 15,000 on the debit side. That's mistakes. We want 15,000 on the credit side, and we have to cancel our error. So again, that's going to be what we'll need to do to the VAT account. 3,000 inheritance received. Okay, so what we did is we put 3,000 on the debit side, and we want it to be on the credit side. So again, we have to cancel our error, and that will be what we need to do in that account. 600 purchase returns. Okay, we put 600 on the debit side. We have to cancel that and put in what we want. So again, these two things here will be what we need to do to the purchase returns account. And finally, storm damage repairs. We put 1250 on the credit side. We want it to be on the debit side. So again, we have to cancel our mistake. So the two yellow highlighted items represent what we need to do to the storm damage repairs account. Okay, so that concludes this video. Now all I've done in this video, to summarize, is just identified items listed incorrectly in the trial balance. I've done some little workings in the T accounts here where I identified what we need to do to fix the mistakes that were made. So the mistakes are the unhighlighted values, what we did, and the corrections required will be the highlighted values. So we need to do a debit entry in the office equipment account, a credit entry in the aggregate depreciation of vehicles account, and so on and so forth. And you'll see those debits and credits formally done in a later video.